Turn the system over. Slide the manual latch to the unlock position. Slide and hold the spring-loaded latch in the release position. Remove the battery from the bay. Slide the battery into the bay until it snaps into place. Slide the manual latch to the locked position. Unlock the optical drive. Simultaneously pull down on the optical drive release tab and use your other hand to remove the optical drive. Slide the optical drive into the bay and push until it is engaged into position. Remove the two screws securing the hard disk drive bracket to the chassis. Push forward to disconnect the drive from the system board. Lift and remove the drive. Remove the 4 screws on both sides of the bracket. Lift the bracket up and the hard disk drive is removed. Place the bracket onto the hard disk drive using the screw holes for alignment. Replace the 4 screws on both sides of the bracket. Position the hard disk drive into the compartment and push until it is properly connected. Secure the drive with the 2 screws. Press the release tabs until the memory chip pops up. Lift it out of the slot with care. Repeat the process for the second memory chip. Insert the memory chip into its slot using the notches for direction. Press it down until it clicks into place. Repeat the process for the second memory chip. Disconnect the 2 antenna cables from the wireless LAN card. Remove the single screw to allow the card to pop up. Lift the card out of the slot and remove it. Insert the wireless LAN card into its slot using the notch for direction. Replace the single screw. Connect the 2 antenna cables to the card. Remove the 2 screws from the bottom of the chassis. Turn the system over. Flip the keyboard over and place it on the palm rest. Disconnect the keyboard backlight connector. Release the keyboard cable from the ZIF connector. Lift up and remove the keyboard. Place the keyboard onto the keyboard bezel. Connect the keyboard cable to the ZIF connector. Connect the keyboard backlight cable. Position the keyboard into the enclosure and press until it is properly engaged. Turn the system over. Replace the 2 screws on the bottom of the chassis. Remove the 6 screws from the bottom of the chassis. Disconnect cable from the system board. Turn the system over. Disconnect the power board cable from the system board. Disconnect the touchpad cable from the system board. Unsnap the edges to free the top cover from the chassis. Lift up and remove it. Place the top cover into position by aligning it with the chassis edges. Press until it is properly snapped. Turn the system over. Connect the cable to the system board. Replace the 6 screws. Turn the system over. Connect the power button board cable to the system board. Connect the touchpad cable to the system board. Disconnect the cable from the power button board. Remove the single screw. Lift up and remove the Lenovo button board. Place the Lenovo button board in position using the locating post for alignment. Replace the single screw. Reconnect the cable to the power button board. Remove the 2 screws. Pull the ribbon through the cutout and then lift up and remove the power button board. Thread the ribbon through the cutout. Place the power button board in position using the locating posts for alignment. Replace the 2 screws. Remove the single screw that secures the board to the chassis. Lift up and remove the I/O board. Place the I/O board in position using the screw hole for alignment. Replace the single screw to secure the I/O board to the chassis. Disconnect the fan cable from the system board. Remove the 6 screws that secure the heatsink to the system board, following the order number embossed on the module. Lift up and remove the heatsink. Place the heatsink in position using the screw holes for alignment. Replace the 6 screws to secure the heatsink to the system board, following the order number embossed on the module. Connect the fan cable to the system board. Turn the locking screw 180 degrees counterclockwise to release the CPU from the socket. Carefully lift up and remove the CPU. Place the CPU in position using the triangle at the corner for direction. Turn the locking screw 180 degrees clockwise to secure the CPU to the socket. Remove the 2 screws. Lift up and remove the power connector. Place the power connector in position using the screw holes for alignment. Replace the 2 screws to secure the power connector to the chassis. Unroute the cables from the guides. Turn the system over. Pull the cables through the opening on the top side. Remove the 4 screws that secure the speakers to the chassis. Lift up and remove the speakers. Unroute the wireless LAN antenna cables from the guides. Remove the 4 screws that secure the display assembly to the chassis. Lift up and remove the display assembly. Place the display assembly into position using the locating posts for alignment. Replace the 4 screws to secure the display assembly to the chassis. Route the wireless LAN antenna cables through the guides. Remove the 2 screws. Carefully work your way around the display panel and unsnap the bezel from the display cover. Lift and remove the bezel. Place the LCD bezel into position by aligning it with the display cover edges. Snap the bezel in position around the edges. Replace the two screws. Remove the 4 screws that secure the LCD panel to the display cover. Lift the LCD panel up. Peel off the tape and remove the LVDS cable. Carefully lift up and remove the LCD panel. Connect the LVDS cable to the LCD panel and secure it with the tape. Carefully place the LCD panel in position using the screw holes for alignment. Secure the panel with the 4 screws. Using a flathead probe, disconnect the signal cable from the camera. Peel off the tape. Carefully peel off the camera and remove it. Place the camera using the locating posts for alignment. Press until the camera is properly taped into position. Reapply the tape. Connect the signal cable to the camera. Turn the system over. Slide the manual latch to the unlock position. Slide and hold the spring-loaded latch in the release position. Remove the battery from the bay. Unlock the optical drive. Simultaneously pull down on the optical drive release tab and use your other hand to remove the optical drive. Slide the optical drive into the bay and push until it is engaged into position. Slide the battery into the bay until it snaps into place. Slide the manual latch to the locked position. Place the speakers in position using the screw holes for alignment. Replace the 4 screws to secure the speakers to the chassis. Feed the cables through the opening on the back side. turn the system over. Route the cables through the cable guides. Remove the 8 screws. Slide the back cover forward, lift up and remove it. Place the back cover in position. Slide it backward until it is properly engaged. Replace the 8 screws. Disconnect the power connector from the system board. Disconnect the LVDS cable from the system board. Disconnect the speaker cable from the system board. Disconnect the camera cable from the system board. Disconnect the I/O board cable from the system board. Remove the 2 screws that secure the system board to the chassis. Carefully lift the system board out of the chassis and remove it. Carefully place the system board into the chassis with the left I/O end aligned with the cutouts. Replace the 2 screws to secure the system board to the chassis. Reconnect the camera cable connector to the system board. Reconnect the I/O board cable to the system board. Reconnect the speaker to the system board. Reconnect the power connector to the system board. Reconnect the LVDS cable to the system board.